New projections suggest that Social Security benefits could rise more than expected, with estimates now around 3% or slightly higher. At first glance, that sounds like good news, more money in your pocket, right? But here's what many people don't realize. That increase is directly tied to rising costs. In other words, it may not stretch as far as it looks on paper. And that's important, because it directly impacts how comfortable your day-to-day life actually feels. So let me ask you, when you hear benefits are going up, do you feel relief, or do you start wondering if prices are simply rising even faster? Stick with me, because once you understand what's really behind these numbers, you may see these increases very differently. Let's break it down. Recent projections for the 2027 Cost of Living Adjustment, or COLA, have moved higher. One estimate now puts it around 3.2%, up from earlier forecasts closer to 1.7%. On the surface, that sounds like a strong increase. But there's a reason behind it: rising inflation. Prices are climbing again, especially in essentials like gas, energy, and food. And that pushes the COLA higher. Here's the part that often gets misunderstood. A higher COLA doesn't necessarily mean you're getting ahead. It usually means you're trying to keep up. Think about it like this. If your benefits go up 3%, but your rent, groceries, utilities, and healthcare also rise by 3% or more, then you're not really gaining ground. You're just holding steady, or sometimes falling behind. Now, not every forecast is the same. Another estimate places COLA closer to 2.8%, which would be roughly similar to last year. That could translate into about a $50 to $60 increase in average monthly benefits. And yes, that helps. But when you compare it to rising costs of essentials, it can still feel limited. This brings up something important that often gets overlooked: how COLA is calculated. Social Security uses the CPI-W, a measure based on spending patterns of urban workers, not retirees. And that matters. Because retirees tend to spend more on healthcare, housing, and utilities, categories that often rise faster than average inflation. So even when official numbers look reasonable, your real-world expenses may tell a different story. And many older Americans feel exactly that way. Surveys consistently show that a large share believe COLA doesn't fully keep up with their actual cost of living. Maybe you've felt that too: higher grocery bills, rising insurance costs, or utilities that keep creeping up while your income barely moves. Looking at the bigger picture, COLA increases have averaged around 3% over the past decade. But that average hides extreme swings. Some years were very low, while high inflation years saw jumps of nearly 6% to over 8%. And here's the catch: those big increases usually arrive after prices have already surged. So by the time you see the adjustment, you've already been feeling the pain for months. It's less of a raise, and more of a catch-up. Now zooming out further, there's another issue people are starting to pay attention to: the long-term future of Social Security. Without major changes, projections suggest the program could face funding shortfalls in the coming years, potentially leading to benefit reductions of around 20% or more if nothing is done. That's why you're hearing more debate around reforms. One proposal is a benefit cap, sometimes discussed as a limit on maximum Social Security payouts. Supporters say it could help protect the system long-term by reducing strain on funding. But critics argue it's unfair, because if people paid into the system their entire working life, they should receive the benefits they earned. And that's where this becomes more than just numbers; it becomes a question of fairness. Another proposal is lifting or removing the taxable income cap for Social Security. Right now, higher earners only pay into the system up to a certain income level. Removing that cap could bring in more revenue without cutting benefits. Each option has trade-offs, and none of them are simple. So what does all of this mean for you? In the short term, a higher COLA projection could mean a slightly larger benefit increase in 2027. But it also signals that prices are still rising, and pressure on household budgets isn't going away. And here's the key takeaway. Don't just look at the COLA number. Look at your real expenses. Are your costs rising faster than your income? Are everyday essentials becoming harder to manage? Because that's the real story behind these adjustments. And more importantly, stay aware of the bigger picture, not just yearly increases, but where the system is heading long term. The decisions made in the next few years could shape Social Security for decades. One final thought. A higher COLA isn't just good news, it can also be a warning sign. It reflects rising inflation, increasing costs, and growing pressure on fixed incomes. So instead of seeing it only as a raise, think of it as a signal. A signal to pay closer attention to your budget, your spending, and your financial planning. Even small steps, like reviewing monthly expenses, cutting unnecessary costs, or checking for benefits you may qualify for, can make a real difference. Because while COLA numbers will keep changing, the real challenge stays the same: making sure your income keeps up with your life.